Salve de Skipuli, hello 6th grade, and welcome to our second video for our Greek mythology unit. So in our last video, we talked about sort of the beginnings of Greek mythology and Gaia and Uranus and their children, the Titans. And so we saw the rise of Cronus as the lord of the universe, and unfortunately then he is afraid that he's going to be overthrown, so he started swallowing his children whole, but his wife Rhea managed to sneak away baby Zeus and gave Cronus a stone instead. So that's where we left off. So we're going to continue to learn about Zeus and the rise of the gods. So last was the Titans, now we're on to the gods. So similar as far as powers and things go, but a sort of a different race of deity in the Greek mythology. All right, on to Zeus and his family. Zeus was tended by gentle nymphs and was nursed by the fairy goat Amalthea. If you remember from our zodiac constellations, this is Capricorn, so this is that goat, the fairy goat that helped nurse baby Zeus. From the horns of the goat flowed ambrosia and nectar, the food and drink of the gods. Zeus grew rapidly, and it was not long before he strode out of the cave as a great new god. To thank the nymphs for tending him so well, he gave them the horns of the goat. They were horns of plenty and could never be emptied. From the hide of the goat, he made for himself an impenetrable breastplate, the aegis, and now he was so strong that Cronus could do nothing against him. Young Zeus chose Metis, Metis, a Titan's daughter, for his first wife. She was the goddess of prudence, and he needed her good advice. She warned him not to try alone to overthrow his child-devouring father, for Cronus had all the other Titans and their sons on his side. First, Zeus must also have strong allies. Metis went to Cronus and cunningly tricked him into eating a magic herb. He thought that the herb would make him unconquerable. Instead, it made him so sick that he vomited up not only the stone he had swallowed, but his 5 other children as well. They were the gods Hades and Poseidon, and the goddesses Hestia, Demeter, and Hera, all mighty gods who right away joined forces with Zeus. When Cronus saw the 6 young gods rising against him, he knew that his hour had come, and he surrendered his powers and fled. Now Zeus was lord of the universe. He did not want to rule alone. He shared his powers with his brothers and sisters. But the Titans and their sons revolted. They refused to let themselves be ruled by the new gods. Only Prometheus and his brother Epimetheus left the Titans to join Zeus, for Prometheus could look into the future, and he knew Zeus would win. Zeus freed the monstrous sons of Mother Earth from Tartarus. Gratefully, the 100-armed ones fought for him with all their strength, and the Cyclopes forged mighty weapons for him and his brothers. They made a trident for Poseidon. It was so forceful that when he struck the ground with it, the earth shook, and when he struck the sea, frothing waves stood mountain high. The trident, Trident, tri means 3, and dent comes from the word dentes, which we learned with our body parts, meaning teeth. So trident literally means 3 teeth, so it's a 3-pronged spear. For Hades, they made a cap of invisibility so he could strike his enemies unseen. And for Zeus, they forged lightning bolts. Armed with them, he was the mightiest god of them all. Nothing could stand against him and his thunderbolts. The Titans fought a bitter battle, but at last they had to surrender, and Zeus locked them up in Tartarus. The 100-armed monsters went to stand guard at the gates to see that they never escaped. Atlas, the strongest of the Titans, was sent to the end of the world to carry forever the vault of the sky on his shoulders. Angry with Zeus for sending her sons, the Titans, into the dark pit of Tartarus, Mother Earth now brought forth two terrible monsters, Typhon and his mate Echidna, and sent them against Zeus. They were so fearful that when the gods saw them, they changed themselves into animals and fled in terror. So if you remember, another one of our zodiac signs was the Pisces, the fish, and that's what some people think Aphrodite turned into and fled as a fish. Typhon's 100 horrible heads touched the stars. Venom dripped from his evil eyes, and lava and red-hot stones poured from his gaping mouths. Hissing like 100 snakes and roaring like 100 lions, he tore up whole mountains and threw them at the gods. Zeus soon regained his courage and turned, and when the other gods saw him taking his stand, they came back to help him fight the monster. A terrible battle raged, and hardly a living creature was left on earth. But Zeus was fated to win, and as Typhon tore up huge Mount Etna to hurl at the gods, Zeus struck it with 100 well-aimed thunderbolts, and the mountain fell back, pinning Typhon underneath. There the monster lies to this very day, belching fire, lava, and smoke through the top of the mountain. And this is actually the mountain that I visited when I was in Sicily. I went to Italy a couple summers ago and actually got to climb up Mount Etna, which is an active volcano. Very cool. Echidna, his hideous mate, escaped destruction. She cowered in a cave, protecting Typhon's dreadful offspring, and Zeus let them live as a challenge to future heroes. So if you see, this is actually an image from the book as well. This one is on a piece of Greek pottery. So some of Echidna's offspring include the Nemean lion, which Hercules has to fight. The Hydra, Hercules also has to fight that one. Cerberus, which is the three-headed dog that guards the underworld. Hercules interacts with him. He doesn't have to fight that one, though. Ladon is a dragon that guards the apples of the Hesperides. Hercules fights a lot of monsters. The Chimera, this one is actually defeated by a different hero, Bellerophon, and the Pegasus. And then the Sphinx, which is defeated by the Sphinx is defeated by Oedipus. There we go. So these are all very famous monsters from mythology that will pop up. Some of them we'll see in some of our later stories. So this is Typhon. This is meant to represent Typhon up here. Obviously, it doesn't have all the many heads. It's on pottery. They have limited space for art. But this is meant to represent Echidna and some of those monster children of hers. All right, so the gods have defeated these monsters. Now at last, Mother Earth gave up her struggle. There were no more upheavals, and the wounds of war soon healed. The mountains stood firmly anchored, the seas had their shores, the rivers had their riverbeds, and ox-horned river gods watched over them, and each tree and each spring had its nymph. The earth again was green and fruitful, and Zeus could begin to rule in peace. The one-eyed Cyclopes were not only smiths, but masons as well, and they built a towering palace for the gods on top of Mount Olympus, the highest mountain in Greece. The palace was hidden in the clouds, and the goddesses of the seasons rolled them away whenever a god wanted to go down to earth. Nobody else could pass through the gate of clouds. Iris, the fleet-footed messenger of the gods, had her own path down to earth. Dressed in a gown of iridescent drops, she ran along the rainbow on her busy errands between Olympus and earth. And then this is just an image of Iris. And then there's the palace on Mount Olympus with some of the goddesses of the seasons around it there. All right, almost done. In the gleaming hall of the palace, where light never failed, the Olympian gods sat on 12 golden thrones and reigned over heaven and earth. There were 12 great gods, for Zeus shared his powers, not only with his brothers and sisters, but with 6 of his children and the goddess of love as well. Zeus himself sat on the highest throne, with a bucket full of thunderbolts beside him. Zeus is the king of the gods and the god of lightning and thunder. On his right sat his youngest sister, Hera, whom he had chosen from all his wives as his queen. So Hera, Hera, is the queen of the gods. And she's also the goddess of marriage. Beside her sat her son, Ares, the god of war. Ares spelled Ares. And Hephaestus, god of fire. Hephaestus, I'm going to spell this one out for you too because it's a long one. Hephaestus. So Hephaestus is the god of fire and of forges. He's a smith god. With Aphrodite, the goddess of love, between them. And Aphrodite is spelled Aphrodite. Next was Zeus's son Hermes, the herald of the gods. Hermes, so he's a messenger god. Hermes is his name. And Zeus's sister Demeter, goddess of the harvest, with her daughter Persephone on her lap. Demeter is Demeter. Hopefully you're filling all of these in on your notes. On the left of Zeus sat his brother Poseidon, the lord of the sea. Poseidon is spelled Poseidon. Next to him sat the 4 children of Zeus, Athena, the twins Apollo and Artemis, and Dionysus, the youngest of the gods. Athena was the goddess of wisdom. Athena spelled Athena. Apollo, the god of light and music, Apollo. Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, Artemis. And Dionysus, the god of wine, Dionysus. Hestia, the eldest sister of Zeus, was goddess of the hearth. She had no throne, but tended the sacred fire in the hall, and every hearth on earth was her altar. She was the gentlest of all the Olympians. So Hestia is Hestia. And in some stories, she actually gives up her throne to, I believe, Dionysus when he becomes a god. Hades, the eldest brother of Zeus, was lord of the dead. He preferred to stay in his gloomy palace in the underworld and never went to Olympus. And Hades is spelled Hades. The gods themselves could not die, for divine ichor flowed in their veins instead of blood. Most of the time they lived happily together, feasting on sweet-smelling ambrosia and nectar. But when their wills clashed, there were violent quarrels. Then Zeus would reach for a thunderbolt, and the Olympians would tremble and fall to order, for Zeus alone was stronger than all the gods together. And there's kind of a cool picture of all of the gods sitting, and then Hestia in the middle tending to the hearth. All right, so that is our overview of the Titans and the Olympians. I hope you enjoyed our little bit of story time this week, and hopefully you were able to fill out all of your notes because you're going to need them for your assignment this week. So you're going to want to, I need you to submit your notes that you filled in on Google Classroom, and you're also going to be completing a word search where there are clues that you're going to fill in based off of the notes you've taken, and then you'll find the words that are the answers to the clues are in the word search. And that is also posted on Google Classroom. So get that all done. Enjoy the story time. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about the Titans and the Olympians. And then I will see you all next week. Let me know if you have any questions about anything or need any help with any of the assignments or filling in any of the notes. Otherwise, Wale te discipuli.